First, Marco, a very happy new year to you, and thanks so much for joining us here on France 24 this morning for us here in Paris. Firstly, your work focuses on global forecasting, political risk, international business development. Tell us how you are advising your clients to prepare for 2023, and are you concerned at all about the possibility of a global recession?
Yes, I mean, first and foremost, I think 2023 is going to be largely a year marked by continuing uncertainty around the world on several fronts. On the economic front, on the geopolitical front, on the economic front, particularly with recession, 2022 was the year of inflation when inflation skyrocketed. 2023 will be a year we'll hear more word recession. It's not that inflation will not disappear. Inflation will be with us for quite some time, but I think it'll be brought somewhat under control, but still remain at a fairly high level. On recession, yes, I mean that it would have it's the questions on recession. So I think we agree on the fact that it will happen. The question is for how long and how severe it will be, and I think it'll be different in different parts of the world. For example, in the U.S. there will be recession, but I don't think it will be as severe as, for example, in Europe. Europe has more of direct exposure to the fallout of the war in Ukraine. Energy prices will remain high. As we noted, that inflation, although we brought under control, will remain fairly high also. So there's several factors that will make recession more severe in Europe than it will in the US. On the other front, if we look at China, for example, in 2023, its main challenge is to bring the COVID virus under control. Once it learns how to live with the virus, the Chinese economy in 2023, I think, will rebound. But the question is exactly when. When can it bring that virus under control? When can it learn to live with it?
And you mentioned Europe there, Marco. We appear on this side of the Atlantic to be shaping up to be facing what could be an enduring energy crisis amid war here on the continent. Do you think that threatens Europe's global position? And if so, how?
Yes, I mean, it can definitely can weaken Europe's position compared to the rest of the world. Like I said, geographically, its proximity and the fallout from the war in Ukraine. The entire world is impacted by the war in Ukraine, particularly if you look at energy crisis, food prices, and many other factors. But Europe in particular, I mean, it was able, largely, it seems it'll be able to survive the winter of 2023 with many difficulties. The question is that the following winter, the winter of late 2023, early 2024, there are going to be major challenges, which could be much worse than this current year. And many of those factors need to be resolved quickly and immediately throughout 2023 in order to ensure a soft landing the following winter.
Finally, then, Marco, bearing all of that in mind, the prospects seem to be grim for much of the world. Are there any reasons at all to be optimistic heading into 2023?
Yes, I mean, I think on the geopolitical front, in terms of the economic front, there are many factors at play. But on the geopolitical front, I think if there's more responsible leadership worldwide, many of the geopolitical issues, which would include the war in Ukraine, for example. Secondly, it would be tensions in East Asia, primarily between the U.S. and China. If you look also at the Middle East, Persian Gulf area, tensions between Iran, Saudi Arabia, and its ally, the U.S. And then in places like South Asia, the borders between Pakistan and China, and the border between India and Pakistan, and between India and China. These are very, very serious issues. These are flashpoints. With responsible leadership, I think many of these tensions can be managed. These problems won't be resolved anytime soon, but they'll be managed. They need to be managed. But I think where there's less hope for would be the war in Ukraine. The war in Ukraine, and unfortunately, the reality is that we have not seen the worst yet. There's going to be a Russian offensive taking place sometime in the first half of 2023, and any chance of a ceasefire does not appear on the horizon anytime soon.
Okay, Marco, we leave it there. A very happy new year to you, and thank you so much for being with us here on France 24. That's Marco Vicenzino, International Affairs commentator and Director of the Global Strategy Project.